Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into the latest Bitcoin predictions, where it's heading next, key price levels to watch, and what the experts are saying. Feel free to save these no copyright AI images result. Looking back to 2025, the air felt different. The post-halving buzz was settling, but the market wasn't exactly euphoric. It was more cautious optimism mixed with lingering doubt from the previous cycle's shakeout. My motivation wasn't just chasing gains. It was a deeper dive into a technology I believed held future potential. Despite the noise, I wanted a tangible stake in this evolving digital frontier. My specific goal was simple yet ambitious. Hold for the long term through the inevitable volatility, and see where Bitcoin stood in the global financial landscape years down the line. It wasn't about getting rich quick. Initial thoughts were a mix of excitement and apprehension. Had I missed the boat? Was this the right time? The feeling was like stepping onto a moving train, hoping it was heading in the right direction. The date was April 15, 2025. Tax day in the US, ironically, felt like a good day to invest in something outside traditional finance. It felt symbolic. The exact purchase price was around $72,000 USD for that single Bitcoin. It felt like a significant sum, a real commitment at the time. I used a well-established, regulated exchange for the purchase. Security and ease of access were my main priorities, avoiding the sketchier platforms. The initial investment amount was precisely that $72,000. It represented a calculated risk. A portion of my savings I was prepared to potentially lose, but hopeful would grow. What happened shortly after buying? Not much drama initially. The price hovered around my entry point for a few days, maybe a slight dip. My reaction to these initial movements was surprisingly calm. I had braced myself for volatility, so a little sideways action or a small dip didn't trigger panic. Monitoring frequency in the early days was higher than I'd like to admit. Checking the price several times a day became a new habit, a nervous tick born of novelty and investment anxiety. Over the subsequent months and years, I witnessed significant price increases. There were periods where Bitcoin seemed to climb effortlessly, breaking through previous all-time highs with surprising speed. Conversely, there were significant price drops, sharp, brutal corrections that wiped out weeks or months of gains in a matter of days. These were tests of conviction. Periods of relative stability were rare, but noticeable. Times when the price traded within a tight range, allowing for a collective breath before the next big move up or down. Overall volatility experienced since 2025 has been exactly as advertised, perhaps even more intense than anticipated at times. It's a wild ride, not for the faint of heart. Hopes and optimism soared during bull phases. It's easy to feel like a genius when your investment is rapidly appreciating, envisioning future possibilities and financial freedom. Fear, anxiety, and doubt were constant companions during bear phases. The feeling of watching value evaporate is visceral, leading to sleepless nights and questioning every decision. Dealing with market noise and FUD became a skill. Learning to filter out sensational headlines, ignore panicked social media posts, and stick to my long-term thesis was crucial. Developing resilience or changing perspective over time was perhaps the most valuable outcome. I learned to detach emotionally from the daily swings and focus on the underlying technology and adoption trends. The initial decision was firmly to hold, or HODL as the community calls it. This wasn't a trade. It was a long-term position based on fundamental belief. Temptation to sell during highs was immense. Seeing substantial unrealized gains makes you question if you should take profits, if this is the peak before a crash. Temptation to sell during lows was equally strong, if not stronger. Panic selling during a steep downturn feels like a primal urge, a desperate attempt to stop the bleeding. My decision was consistently to stay put. I resisted the urge to time the market, trusting the original plan despite the emotional turmoil. I neither bought more nor sold a portion. The influence of broader market trends, particularly crypto cycles, was undeniable. Bitcoin's price often moved in tandem with the overall sentiment and flow of capital within the crypto ecosystem. Effects of global economic conditions played a significant role. Inflationary pressures, interest rate changes, and recession fears all seem to impact investor appetite for risk assets like Bitcoin. Impact of regulatory news and government actions was a constant wildcard. Announcements from major economies regarding crypto policy could send shockwaves through the market, sometimes positive, often negative. Influence of technological developments in crypto and blockchain also mattered. Progress on scaling solutions, new use cases, and interoperability subtly reinforced the long-term value proposition. The role of media coverage and public sentiment was powerful. Hype cycles fueled rallies, while negative narratives amplified downturns, often driven by sensationalism rather than substance. Effects of specific geopolitical events, like conflicts or international sanctions, occasionally caused flight to safety movements, sometimes benefiting Bitcoin, sometimes hurting it depending on the narrative. There was mention of major adoption news over the years. Seeing large institutions allocate capital or countries explore Bitcoin as a reserve asset provided significant boost to confidence and price. Impact of specific upgrades or forks, while less dramatic than in earlier years, still mattered. Developments like Taproot continue to enhance Bitcoin's capabilities, albeit incrementally. Effects of security breaches or major hacks elsewhere in the crypto space often cast a shadow. While not directly impacting Bitcoin's protocol, they damaged overall confidence in the ecosystem. Influence of competing cryptocurrencies or technologies was always present. The rise of new chains or applications sometimes drew attention and capital away, creating competitive pressure. Key milestones were reached along the way. Holding for 1 year, then 2, then 5 felt significant, marking progress against the initial long-term goal. Reflection on the experience at different points revealed evolving perspectives. Early on, it was about price. Later, it became more about the network's resilience and global impact. Changes in understanding of Bitcoin and crypto were profound. It transformed from a speculative asset in my mind to a potential global reserve asset and a revolutionary technology. The current status of that one Bitcoin, it is still held. I resisted all temptations to sell, sticking to the original long-term vision despite the roller coaster. The final value at the time of writing this reflection is approximately $280,000 USD. It's a figure that represents years of patience and conviction. Calculation of profit or loss shows a significant profit. From the initial $72,000 investment, the gain is $208,000 USD before considering any taxes. Concluding thoughts on the investment experience are complex. It wasn't easy, but it was incredibly educational. It taught me about market psychology, personal discipline, and the potential of decentralized technology. Lessons learned from buying Bitcoin in 2025 are numerous. Patience is paramount. Emotional control is vital. Do your own research, understand what you own, and have a long-term plan you can stick to through thick and thin.